Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome all of you here on a late afternoon on a Tuesday. I hope your week's going well. Just one very quick housekeeping item from my colleague. Can you all see my screen? Just a thumbs up. Perfect. Again, really want to welcome all of you and appreciate you taking the time. I am Jay Nichols. I'm Vice President of Public Policy here at Tourette Association of America. We have some special guests with us today from around the country, particularly in particular from our centers of excellence locations. You're going to be hearing from several of them today, along with one of our fellow parent advocates, on all the great work that this partnership, now in its 10th year, and kind of the vision and the collaboration, and of course, moving forward together on ways to continue to improve and support the TS and persistent tick disorder community. Our panelists including our very own Dr. Katrina Hermitet, who joined us about a year and a half ago as our medical and scientific programs lead, Dr. Christopher Manbeck from the Arkansas Children's Tourette Center, Dr. James Batterson from Children's Mercy in Kansas City, Missouri, Dr. Robin Jack from the Lebanon Neuroscience Institute out in Tennessee. And then, of course, we have our fellow parent advocate, Dr. Edward Wright, who has become involved with us. He actually lives, as do I, in the Washington, D.C. area, but has recently become involved as an advocate. And momentarily, beg your pardon. I'm sorry, Alex?
Yes.
Can you, I think there we go. Never mind.
No problem.
So soon we are expecting the arrival of Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee. He is one of the co-chairs of the Tourette Syndrome Congressional Caucus. He does it along with Congressman Andrew Garbarino of New York, and he is expected to join us and say a few words here momentarily. And we welcome his participation. Now, before I pause, and I'm going to hand off to our team, just some very, very quick background on. Oh,
yeah, I'm here.
Oh, Congressman. Oh,
yeah.
Thank you very much. Oh man, I apologize. Welcome.
Not
sir.
the worst thing that's happened to me.
Well, we really, really appreciate you joining. And what I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is I am going to, so just to highlight the Congressman, and I'm just going to pause the slide deck, but Congressman, just really can't thank you enough for joining us. Not only that, but all the work you've done on behalf of our community. I know you're going on 20 years of serving in Congress, and you've really just been you've been a champion for the disability rights community, and in particular for our community, as obviously through your leadership, both as a caucus chair, but also legislatively. You've been our biggest champion for investment in research and education on TS and tick disorder, and we just really can't thank you enough for all the work that you have done. Some of our directors who were in DC a couple weeks ago had an opportunity to meet with your office, and really just always have to give them a tremendous amount of respect for everything that they do as well. So, sir, I know your schedule is very busy, but I'm going to pause, and we would just like to hear a few words from you.
Well, thank you, Jay, and thank you to all of the panelists, and particularly Dr. Jack, who's back home in Memphis, I presume. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm at Lamar Children's Hospital in Memphis, in your district, and we appreciate everything that you've done for us there.
I had to look down to see if I was wearing Le Bonheur socks today. I'm not. I'll have to do those. They've got great logos and stuff. Le Bonheur is a great children's hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, and we're proud of Le Bonheur and all the work that they do. So thank you, Dr. Jack. My father was a doctor, and when I was a young person, my father came to me one day and he said, Stephen, when you grow up, you can be anything you want to be. You can be a neurologist, you can be an internal medicine doctor, you can be a dermatologist, you can be an orthopod, you can be a psychiatrist, you can be a pediatrician, anything you want to be. And I guess I disappointed him. I went to law and politics, but no, I didn't disappoint him. My father was proud, and he was a physician. And through having a father as a physician, I've always been the idea that medicine was very important, which of course it is. Healthcare is the most important thing all of us have. Being born well, growing, having nutrition, and dealing with injuries and maladies that we all incur on the path through life. So that was part of why I've been very much interested in healthcare over the years. And then my friend Michael Wolf, who has Tourette's and is a great piano player, and he and his wife Polly did the movie called The Tick Code. Some of y'all might have seen it. Gregory Hines was in it, and it was a really fine movie, but Polly was a star and Michael was in it. And that kind of got me. I didn't really know Michael had Tourette's when I first met him, but after a while, I kind of picked up on a tick or two, and then we discussed it, talked about it. So he and Polly encouraged me, and I followed quickly and became a founder and a co-chair of this Congressional Tourette's Syndrome Caucus. So I appreciate your work that you're doing at the Centers of Excellence on Tourette Syndrome, and I'd like to hear some of the experiences you've had and what we can do more. We try to educate to some extent the members of Congress. It's become more difficult as the years has gone on, as the cumulative IQ of the Congress has fallen, but we still try. We've been successful, though, in funding in 2013, founding the caucus, and we've been successful in its mission and have secured $2.5 million for the Tourette Syndrome Research Program through the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention each of the past few years. The work we've done in the past is not necessarily this. I feel like I'm being some kind of a stock analyst or economics guy. Past results are not necessarily an indication of future activities, but it's not in this climate because health and science research and been attacked by this administration. And we've seen a cut in NIH funding and cuts in CDC and personnel that have been placed in certain positions that seem antithetical to their being in those positions, including my friend Bobby Kennedy, who I've been friends with, but he's not fit for that position. He'd be great working on food, but medicine, he's quite a bit deficient, but he's there. The Tourette Syndrome program remains critically important, though, to help understand the prevalence and the co-occurring conditions, impacting costs, to educate doctors, teachers, and others, professionals, parents, and the public at large about the diagnosis rate and improve the lives of those living with Tourette's. And I was just reading on the screen about how many people with Tourette's consider suicide. And it's a larger number than I would have expected, but it's an understandable number because it's a disability, and it's a disability that shows itself. And for years, I don't think I've seen it too much lately, but when I grew up, there was a whole lot of stuff about scatological words and maybe, evoking and talking with expletives. And that was kind of like a joke about people with Tourette's. I think that's kind of calmed down. And I think people understand it's an illness and we don't need to stigmatize the people. So I think that's a good thing that has come with the years. But between the layoffs and the furloughs we have up here, rehiring, budget cuts, rescissions, and the way forward at the CDC and the Department of Health and Human Services, it's just unclear what's going to happen. But I continue to advocate for strong investments in health research, including Tourette syndrome. I've told people many times over the years, the Department of Defense is important. And we need to thank our veterans for protecting us from problems that exist in the world. I'm now on the intelligence committee as well, and so I learn about some of the problems that are out there, and there's some very difficult people in the world, and are not like the Hindus I was with Saturday, who worship for evil over good over evil, light over dark at Diwali. There are a lot of people out there that are bad actors. And so there is a need to have a Department of Defense. But the likelihood of us dying, any one of us dying, from something that North Korea does or China does or Putin with his new nuclear missile does is less likely than the idea that we're going to die from stroke or heart disease or cancer or Parkinson's or Alzheimer's or whatever. And so the real Department of Defense ought to be NIH. And but they've been cut at the CDC. So that's unfortunate, but it's a continuing fight to make people think about funding medical research and science to protect people from death more so than we have had to do both. But the Russians are not, they're bad guys. Now, I can't tell you some of the things I know, but you probably know them or suspect them anyway. You suspect them, you're right. But I appreciate what you've done over the years, 53 years of advocacy that raise awareness and support to help us with the Tourette syndrome community. And I look forward to continuing to work with you, and I will. This is a project I've been on now for 12 years, and during my extent of my career in Congress, I will work to this funding available and awareness of Tourette syndrome or more knowledgeable to more people, so that we deal with it in a more humane and practical fashion. Thank you very much.
Congressman, thank you so much. We greatly appreciate your kind words. And of course, your leadership on behalf of our community has been so important, especially, in ever changing, because Congress lately has been changing a lot, administrations change, but I think thanks to your work with you and obviously with Congressman Garbarino and the caucus and congressional leadership, I think that, this has become such a strongly bipartisan mission in the healthcare space and advocacy space. And we just really are very grateful to have you part of our team.
I think it has been, and Garbarino's been good to work with, and hopefully we can continue to do that.
We greatly appreciate that, sir. Thank you. Okay. Well, the congressman actually, for sake of time, congressman actually highlighted this slide. Did a great job at it. And of course, yes, we are now in our 53rd year here at Tourette Association of America. We are still going very, very strong. And as I mentioned at the beginning of our meeting, we are now in the 10th year of our partnerships, our centers of excellence partnerships. So with that, I am actually going to hand off to my colleague, Dr. Katrina Hermitat, our Vice President for Medical and Scientific Programs. Katrina is obviously many of you on this call know her very well. She is, a champion and leader, and she is also, I don't know if she's shared this with everybody, she's also, I think, an unofficially unlicensed DJ. So she's a woman of just tremendous skills. So go ahead, Katrina.
Yeah, they could have to apologize for me moving around the screen. For 1 week a year in Ohio, I get this sliver of sun that hits me right in my office. So I promise I'm not being beamed up. I'm not holy today. So, So my name is Dr. Katrina Hermitat. Like Jay said, I'm the Vice President of Medical and Scientific Affairs, and I'm really going to speak to you today from 3 identities. One identity is a clinician. I spent the entirety of my early career working alongside these great colleagues that we'll talk later this afternoon, doing TIC and Tourette services for the children of Akron, Ohio. I'm here today to talk about the great scientific and medical work we do in partnership with my colleagues here through the Center of Excellence program, which I'll introduce to you. And then something else I'm very personally proud of is I also write about Tourette syndrome and tic disorder and working with this community that has been so sacred to my professional career and personal life. And so I'd like to change up kind of what we're doing this afternoon. I actually want to read a little piece just to kind of set the space, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about the Center of Excellence model. So I want to introduce this concept of 1 in 50, right? So 50 is a number that we recognize as a society. 50 states, 50 first states, 50 cent, the 50-yard line. It's everywhere in pop culture and history. It's a milestone we understand. But there's another 50 that deserves far more attention. 1 in 50 children have Tourette syndrome or persistent tic disorder, and of those, nearly 50% remain undiagnosed. That's not because the symptoms aren't there. It's because too often the world doesn't know how to see them. We don't have enough doctors who are trained to recognize Tourette syndrome, especially in the ways that it presents that don't align with stereotypes. We don't yet have enough research that reflects the full spectrum of how TS shows up across age, race, and gender. And because of that, we don't have enough answers for the families who are searching for them. So today, we take this time to celebrate and honor that other 50 for the kids that are still unnamed in the data, for the families still navigating the journey without a diagnosis, for the students who are still misunderstood in classrooms, dismissed in clinics, or mislabeled in daily life. Until we invest in research that truly captures this condition, until we train more clinicians to recognize it early and accurately, until we equip educators to feel informed in the classroom, until we stop telling families it's just a phase, we will keep raising awareness because that 50% deserves to be seen. That 50% deserves to be known, and that 50% deserves better because there is still work to do. So with that, I'd like to introduce the work that we are doing to honor those 50% that we still do not yet know. So like I said, I spent the majority of my clinical career at Akron Children's Hospital. Akron Children's Hospital at that time was designated as a center of excellence. And one of the things that I'm proudest of about that clinic was the incredible community support that we were able to build. So these are just a couple pictures of some of those moments. Every single person in that picture was a family that our service knew and that took them through that diagnostic journey. And then in the corners, that provider that really made a case for the need of kids with tics and why it was so important to make sure that my institution and my political leadership knew that these kids and these adults were all around us. So next slide. So here's me in my advocacy work. So I've spoken to a lot of you before, actually just at this time last year with Dr. Kevin Black and Dr. Jackie Martindale. Like Jay said, I also, I'm like the resident DJ here at the TAA. But my entire career, I have connected to the Tourette Association. They really grew me. And so this is an honor to speak to you today. All right, next slide. All right, so the Center of Excellence model really began in 2014, and it was to recognize exemplary clinics in our country to build a national network of support. So part of this model is we have an annual application process that's reviewed by our medical and scientific experts, and our network has continued to expand with new designations all over the country. Next slide. So why do we need a Center of Excellence model? So as the Tourette Association, go back one slide, Jay. Okay. As the Tourette Association is the national leading nonprofit for individuals with TS, our job is to identify excellence, whether that's excellent communities doing great things, whether that's excellent providers giving great diagnostic care, and centers that are doing really comprehensive support for our pediatric and adult patients. So COEs really represent our designation of excellence in clinical care. And so we are very lucky today that we're going to hear from 3, I would say fairly recent recipients to talk about the work that they do and how it aligns with this definition of excellence. All right, next slide. So when you think about a center of excellence, what would that bring up in the tic and Tourette world? So center of excellences often have comprehensive evaluation and treatment. What comprehensive evaluation means for any of those listening in the medical world, we're trying to create what we would call a medical home around these patients, that we have awesome coordinated care where our providers are continuously talking to each other, right? We're putting our patient in the middle and we're growing with that patient, meaning we're doing excellent work transitioning them to adult medicine, working with specialists, because individuals with tics, I would say, are clinically complex and often require a really advanced service network so that they can have interpersonal and professional success. Centers of excellence often participate together in multi-center initiatives. So just last month, we were all together in DC talking about waitlist management, talking about research and training in tic and Tourette, talking about how do we partner with our communities that are most impacted with urban and rural barriers. So those are the conversations we're having all together as kind of one unified center identity, talking about how we're supposed to nationally take care of this clinical population. All right, next slide. So here are the core pillars of the Tourette Center of Excellence model. So we all decided in that conversation that clinical care really is the crown jewel of a COE. So again, comprehensive, multidisciplinary, and patient-focused. In addition to that, COEs are constantly thinking about quality improvement and participating in research. They also have a responsibility to train that next generation of providers, whether those providers are psychologists, medical providers, OTs, to get them excited and really tuned in to the community of research and academic identity in the TS world. Like those pictures I shared with you, some of the best COEs have a very strong community engagement, that TS community knows their institution and goes to their institution for support. And that institution also identifies a professional responsibility to make sure that we're making those connections with our community and giving our patients the opportunity to meet and learn from each other. And then finally, COEs demonstrate leadership and collaboration. We're having tough conversations. We're getting in front of our political leaders. We're thinking very carefully about best practices. So those really are the core pillars of what it means to be a TAA COE. All right, next slide, Jay. So this is just kind of a general rundown of all the centers of excellence that really span the country. And so I'm very proud to say that this has become a national network. So in the Northeast, we have institutions in New York, Massachusetts, and Connecticut. Southeast, we have strong representation in Florida, North Carolina, and Tennessee. Midwest has Illinois, Ohio, and Missouri. I'd say Kansas too, right on the border. The South has Texas, Alabama, and Arkansas, and the West has California, Colorado, and Arizona. And these are growing. We actually reviewed a couple of COE applications. And so our goal is to be national in scope, because a lot of those clinical issues that are coming up for one of our services is coming up for all of our services. All right, next slide, Jay. So we can jump over this, but this is just a little bit about the designation process. So what I'd want to share with our listeners today is that this is rigorous. We are encouraging our Center of Excellence applicants to engage in really good self-study, identify areas of growth, and we're actually going to start a mentorship model so that our newest COEs can learn from some of our oldest COEs. Next slide. And this is just kind of a general list of our centers of excellence. So again, you can see they're really national in scope, really spanning the country. Next slide. Okay, perfect. We'll keep rolling. Okay, and so with that, I'll punt it over to Jay to introduce our speakers.
Thank you very much, Katrina. Our first speaker, and of course, just wanted, as always, please, here's a best way to engage us, and we always appreciate everyone else's support. So I am gonna hand it off to Dr. Christopher Manbeck, who's one of our recent additions, a COE addition, and he is currently with the Arkansas Children's Hospital Tourette Center of Excellence. He is and with the College of Medicine and Arkansas Children's Pediatric Wing. Dr. Manbeck, we welcome you here today, and take it away.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation. It's a great honor to be on here. So it's just a picture of some of our main sites that we have. You can go to the next slide. So we have a main campus here in Little Rock. It's a little bit rainy out today, but it's usually beautiful most of the year. We have a second campus up in Springdale, which is right next to the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville. We have a clinic in Jonesboro. We are adding an adult interdisciplinary clinic over at the adult hospital, UAMS. And we see patients, I personally see them from all over the region. We have various licenses around the region. And then just to brag a little bit on our neurology department, we were recently ranked number 32 in the country, which is one of our highest rankings ever. So I'm really proud to be a part of this department, which is very young and very growing. You go to the next slide. So as far as the Tourette Center's history, I was hired in July of 2019 after I finished my fellowship. And I noticed when I was hired that there was a group of children who had kind of fallen through the cracks. They weren't being seen regularly or by anyone in particular. They were just kind of spread out among the department. And those are the kids with Tourette syndrome. So I saw a need and I requested to start a clinic. At first, they allowed me half a day a week just to prove that it could be a larger clinic. And that began a 4-year process of emailing, cold calling, and sometimes begging different departments to join my team so that way we could make a nice center for our kids. Next slide. So 5 years later, we received the designation of Center of Excellence, which was a great honor. I was very happy about that. A little bit about our center right now, we get roughly about 12 new referrals per week. And again, like was said earlier, that's probably half the number of kids that actually have Tourette syndrome around the state. That's just what is coming to me. We have neurology, psychiatry, psychology, occupational therapy, sleep medicine, social work, educational support, and various therapies, including CBIT and CBT here. I also do a full day of new patient Tourette clinic in my personal clinic. That's at least 12 dedicated slots a week for new patients that have Tourette syndrome or new referrals. And then one day of interdisciplinary clinic that's primarily neurology, psychiatry, psychology, and social work. Those are the primary ones, although we're always trying to add to that group. We participate in research trials. We just finished one and are actually looking at starting 3 more. We participate in publications, and then we prefer to treat with therapy, but we do offer the latest in treatment and medication advancements as we're able to. Next slide. So present and future, we are working with a new clinic here, integrative medicine, which I think is really interesting. They focus on holistic treatments, so a lot of nutrition. They actually teach the kids how to cook. They go to, they have a partnership with a local food bank, and they bring in food for the kids. They teach them how to make it and then send them home with it to take home to their parents to cook the meal they just learned. They teach them exercise strategies, mindful meditation, yoga, all sorts of interesting stuff. So I'm working with integrative medicine right now to create a little research project for our kids. We are in discussions to create a movement disorders fellowship with our UAMS department, which has a lot of great programs there. We are always looking to add more therapists and specialists to our teams. We do lectures for med students, APRN students, residents, fellows. I have 3 next week lectures that I haven't written yet. And then we have lectures to statewide primary care providers, pediatric specialists, all sorts of different opportunities to help around the state. Next slide. So we offer our patients interdisciplinary clinic, like we mentioned before, educational resources, which are entirely provided by the Tourette Association of America, which is just indescribable help, honestly. The fact that we don't have to pay a dime for these and they just send them to us is pretty remarkable. We offer our kids telephone support Monday through Friday during business hours, and they can always call on call if they need it also. We do community events, parent and patient family support groups. We try to be active in the yearly conferences, TICCon, and then we help set up educational 504 plans for our kids through their schools. Next slide. We're working on a social media series a little bit with Tourette Association of America too. We've been trying to help me a little bit with that. We have been on the local news about Tourette syndrome a couple times. We offer, of course, medication and therapy, social work support. We have some really great social workers here. And then that integrated medicine clinic, which I think is really cool. So I'm excited about that. Next slide. So I wanted to give you 2 patient examples that I thought were pretty meaningful and memorable. The first patient was a teenage girl that I met in clinic. She had a really, really rough start to life, just bouncing in and around foster care, constantly moving homes, every couple months into a new foster care home. Terrible anxiety and really severe tics. Her tics with a lot of profanity, a lot of obscenities. And so that was the big reason why homes couldn't keep her. So she had just been placed in a new placement. It was about 3+ hours from our hospital. And the family messaged me and said they can't keep her unless we can get her tics under control quickly. They had young children and they were worried about the obscenities and profanity, the effect on their young children. And so I set up a telehealth visit with her to do CBIT training with this teenage girl that we would do every week. And of course, the CBIT training I received through the Tourette Association of America, which again, amazing training that they offer. You can't get it anywhere else. So it's a huge resource. And then telehealth, which our own senators and congressmen have been very big advocates of, that really helped to be able to do this, because there was a time when you couldn't do telehealth therapy like I can now. So I did the telehealth therapy with her. And over the course of, it took about 2 months. And the family, I told them, please just give us time to do this, keep her a little bit longer. By that second month, the obscenities were gone, the tics were much better controlled, and the family kept her. And so she's done amazing since then. It's been 2 years and she's still with the same family. So a huge thank you to the Tourette Association of America for providing the training, and to our congressmen and senators for providing the ability to do telehealth, that we could really change this girl's life and give her some stability and give her a chance to have, decent teenage years. So that was the first patient. And then patient number 2 on the next slide. This was an elementary school age boy that actually was this last spring that I started seeing him. Very high anxiety, panic attacks, really severe ADHD, just kind of bouncing off the wall, and impairing tics. So we started seeing him here, and he's a really sweet little boy, a good little leader. And so he actually, I coach him in soccer. I coach 8-year-old boys soccer. So he was on my team, got placed on my team. So at practice, at one of the early practices, one of the other boys on the team who, as far as I know, had never had any mental health issues, he had a panic attack on the field and was just kind of really freaking out on the field, couldn't catch his breath. And so this first little boy that I had been seeing, and I had taught him some breathing exercises that I learned through CBIT, provided by Tourette Association of America. So I went over to the little boy having the panic attack, and my little patient, who is one of the best players on my team, comes running across the field and comes over to him, and he tells the little boy, just breathe with me, breathe with me. And so he does a little mini breathing session with him, right there on the field. And it took a little bit, but the other little boy calmed down and everything went really well. So I thought it was just an amazing example of the impact that we're having on these kids, and the fact that they're using the skills that we taught them to help other kids. So I just thought it was a really incredible story. So those are my 2 patients. Again, I'm really grateful to be on this webinar. I really appreciate all your guys' help and just this opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Manbeck, very much. We just got to keep moving along here. Our next guest is Dr. James Bob Batterson from Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City. Dr. Batterson is a native of Kansas City, Missouri, and he went to medical school at the University of Missouri, and also was trained in psychiatry and at the Medical University of South Carolina, and as well as attended Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. After 7 years of private practice, he joined Children's Mercy in the early 2000s. He currently serves as medical director of development and behavioral health, and is also the director of the Tourette Clinic, which is located in a suburban community of Children's Mercy. So very distinguished background, and we welcome Dr. Batterson.
Thanks, Jay. And I did not prepare a slide deck because I want to keep my comments fairly brief. And I just, in case our congressman is still on and can hear, I very much relate to his story about having a father who wanted him to go into medicine. Only my father was an attorney. And at some point in medical school, I told him I thought I might want to become an attorney instead of a physician. And I got to watch my father break out into a sweat. And if he had a tic disorder, he would have started having tics, I'm sure. But anyway, so the congressman and I went a little bit different pathways, but ended up in medicine for me. I actually started working with kids with Tourette disorder in around 1994. And it wasn't because of a lot of background or expertise specifically in Tourette, but because we just had a dearth of people who provided care for them. And one of the things I really want to emphasize is that although Tourette is primarily considered a neurological disorder, I think those of us who treat it really know it's a neuropsychiatric disorder. It's a neuropsychological disorder. It's not lost on me that Dr. Katrina is a psychologist, and we very much appreciate our psychology colleagues. So at our center, we have 2 psychologists involved. One is a therapist. The other is a person who does neuropsychological testing. And we have a family therapist involved with our patients because we really see a large need. Our families just are so often ill-equipped to handle the irritability that they see in some of our kids. The kids that we treat often have a lot of OCD symptoms. They have very strong ideas about how things need to go on a given day or what they need, and can be quite a little terrorist if they don't get what they want. So our family therapist has been a marvelous addition. I think that Congressman and other people on this call should know that we see people, as all the centers do, from all ethnic backgrounds, racial backgrounds, socioeconomic backgrounds. I have kids whose parents are bank presidents and kids who have to ride the city bus to get to us. So it's quite a variety of individuals that we care for, and that's how my practice with this group has always been. It is nice to see that most of our kids get better as they get older, but at least 10% of people still persist into adulthood with their tics. And so our center is very active with adult transition. We are a children's hospital, and if we held on to everybody we treated, we'd become a different place. I've often joked we'd have to rename ourselves Middle Age Mercy Hospital, and I just don't think it would go over very well. So we do work very hard to get our kids transitioned elsewhere. Our center is located in Kansas City, but Kansas City sits on the border of Kansas and Missouri. So a substantial number of our individuals live in one state or the other, but we do also have people from Iowa and Nebraska that come our way. Occasionally we have Oklahoma and a few other neighboring states, because as you can imagine, in the Midwest, there's a lot of space, not as many people, and certainly not as many people with expertise in Tourette or the related disorders. We tend to keep our folks until they're about age 21 before we transition, and many of our patients stay with us for that length of time whenever they were referred up until they need to leave. Having a coordinated center, and we meet every Thursday for our Tourette clinic, although we do see patients outside of the Thursday timeframe. But our group is all together. We have an in-person once a week meeting where we talk about the patients we're going to see that day, and sometimes other difficult patients that are vexing us because they're complicated and they're smarter than us, and we need to get together to put our minds together to help them. But that meeting has been extremely helpful and important to us to coordinate everything. We're also involved with education, just like at Arkansas, only probably the biggest bulk of people we educate are the pediatricians that come through. We have all of our pediatricians shadow in the Tourette clinic, and then we also have child and adolescent psychiatry fellows, nurse practitioners, and a few other individuals who come through as shadowers and sometimes end up becoming our staff. At the end of the call, I'm sure we'll have time for questions, but Jay, I think I'll hand off so that we can have our other speakers also speak.
Thank you very much, Dr. Patterson. And again, thanks for joining us today. Yep, and we're going to keep on moving, and now use this opportunity to introduce Dr. Robin Jack, who's actually, as you heard earlier in the call, is the Congressman's office is very, very familiar with her work. We were fortunate to have Dr. Jack in DC a couple weeks ago for our first ever Centers of Excellence fly-in. Just very, very briefly, she is born and raised in West Virginia, attended West Virginia University for both undergrad and medical school, did pediatric training at the University of Colorado Health Sciences Center and the Denver Children's Hospital. She also has received neurology training at the Medical College of Virginia in Richmond, which is now Virginia Commonwealth University, was in private practice, and is now joined the faculty at University of Tennessee in 2007, and leads their Tourette and tic disorder research there, and we are grateful to have her, Dr. Jack, here today, and I'll hand off to you. Oh, you're on mute.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Yes. Okay. Thank you, Jay. And thank you for inviting me. It is indeed an honor. And I just want to point out that we were designated a Center of Excellence last year. So we were very excited about that. Next slide. So we are located in Memphis, Tennessee, as has been said, and this is our physical plant. This is our primary site that we have our base for our Tourette Center of Excellence. Next slide. Our hospital is located just a short distance from the mighty Mississippi. It's a great place to visit when you come to Memphis. Next slide. We're also located where Elvis lived most of his adult life, and you can visit Graceland. And this is a picture of Elvis at the gates of Graceland when it was first built, I think, in 1957. So we have a lot of good history and music and food in Memphis if anyone ever wants to come visit. Next slide. So our staff was built, as Dr. Manbeck said, basically through a lot of begging and cajoling, me identifying this group of patients when I first started working in Memphis, that there were many patients without really a good medical home. And so I started working and putting together a group of people, and we now have this awesome staff, and we all work together to take care of these patients. So I'm the co-director with Dr. Kristen Holter, who's a neuropsychologist. She's a professor in clinical neurosciences. Dr. Ash Raja is new junior faculty who joined us from Wake Forest University several years ago. She's very interested in research, and we're trying to help her build the research aspect, and she has been named the Director of Research for our TAA Center of Excellence. We have Professor Shalini Narayanan, who is an awesome researcher in basic anatomy and neurobiology, and she runs our TMS lab and is very interested in doing research and how TMS can interact with patients with Tourette syndrome. Dr. Tracy Ridley Pryor is a board-certified pediatric mental health nurse practitioner, and she works directly in our clinic with our patients through direct referrals, and also she works directly with our child psychiatry department for help as well. Our center coordinator is Madison Prohl, who started out as my clinic nurse and gradually kind of took over our Tourette patient base, and does a great job with that. And we have a newly added social worker as well. Next slide. And last but not least are our two great behavioral psychologists, Dr. Gwen Beard and Dr. William Dalton. They both do behavioral psychology evaluations, as well as they are both TAA certified CBIT trainers, and they do a great job. And without them, my job would be incredibly difficult. Next slide. So our mission of our center is to improve the lives of children with persistent tic disorders and Tourette syndrome through excellent clinical care, education, research, and community outreach. So our center, as we mentioned, is located in downtown Memphis at LeVonner Children's Hospital, but we also have satellite clinics in various outreaches areas, Jackson, Tennessee, Tupelo, Mississippi, Jonesboro, Arkansas, and we do telehealth services because many of our patients, even the ones that we see at the main hospital, travel hours and hours away. As my colleagues have stated, it's difficult often for them to get there. And so telehealth has been invaluable for us to help these patients, not only with basic neurology care, but also with their psychological and psychiatric care as well. Our patients come from both urban and rural areas. Some of our patients that we see in Tupelo, Mississippi, live in very rural parts of Mississippi, even down into southern Mississippi. And you know, we are kind of the center for those patients, and I try to offer them as many services as we can. We have a large African American population at all of our centers, and about 70% of our patients are on public or some type of government insurance as well. So our center, we normally will see 300 new patients per year with about 500 return visits per year. Next slide. So clinical care, we focus on increasing access to care across all disciplines. So when I first started seeing these patients, I was basically it. And so I realized quickly that I needed psychology, I needed neuropsychology evaluation and testing, I needed behavioral psychology, I definitely needed CBIT, I needed psychiatry services. So we have built that into our clinic so that we can provide all of those services to all of our patients at all of our sites. We don't have all the services at every site, but they have access to all the services through our main site. And so within the clinic itself, neurology, myself and Dr. Raja are the first line to see these patients in order to provide a correct diagnosis, which many of them come to us with all kinds of different diagnoses. Oh, these are just habits, behaviors. The diagnosis has not been correct. And we are able to see new patients within about 6 to 8 weeks of referral, which is great. So we offer tick management modalities, including behavioral referrals, CBIT referrals, and medication management. And one thing that I think should be mentioned here is we don't have great medications that addresses the needs of patients with persistent tic disorders and Tourette syndrome. The medications that we have that work the best have the most significant potential long-term side effects. So we really do need to invest in research and development to get medications that are both effective with as minimal side effects as possible. And so there are some medications that are coming down the pipeline. One that's getting close, I think, that we'll be able to use that may help improve our care. So what we want is to be able to prescribe those medications to our patients when they come available, which brings up the need for, the Safe Step Act to be passed, so that when these new medicines become available, we can use them and we don't have to go through this step-by-step use of all the old medicines that we know don't work that well and have potentially serious side effects. So that's my plug for the Safe Step Act there. So and our job as a neurologist is actually to coordinate the care with all the other subspecialties within our clinic. We can go to the next slide. So education, to me, is really the pillar of treatment for these patients. I found out early on that mostly what I was doing was educating the patients and their families, and also their pediatricians, their schools, their wider community. And I used, and I have used for many years, the free materials provided by the TAA, which has been an excellent resource. It's been great to use. It's been very helpful, and we need to continue with that. And just a couple of short stories about a couple of my patients. I had a little boy not long ago who had diagnosed tic disorder, had various motor and vocal tics, excellent student, very well behaved, but his mother called and said, he's been getting in trouble at school. The teacher keeps sending me notes home, and he's doing, I think they call it pulling a card, when you're not good, you pull a card or whatever, for being disrespectful. And I'm like, why? That wasn't in his character. So he came in to see me, and what he was doing was he had developed a new tic in which he was rolling his eyes. So whenever he would get nervous or upset or worried about his schoolwork, he'd start rolling his eyes. And when his teacher would call him on it, it would get worse because he was more nervous, which is what happens when you have tics. So he was getting in trouble for being disrespectful when in fact he was not. So just educating the mom, okay, this is a tic, educate the teacher. We talked to the school, explained it, and now he's having a much better experience in his school because people understand. And I think that we've come a long, long way from when I first started doing this, but there's still a lot of misconceptions among our teachers, pediatricians, referral sources for this. And another patient experience I want to talk about is I have a very nice young teenage girl that I see, and she's being raised by her great-grandmother, and she has motor and vocal tics, and she's going along fairly well. Well, she developed coprolalia. I call that the famous Tourette syndrome symptom, which we know some people have, not very many people have. It's not required for the diagnosis, although some people still believe that that's the case. But she started to say hell and damn all the time. And her grandmother brought her to me all upset that she was being bad and disrespectful and just downright evil with all this cussing. And I said, ma'am, these are tics. She's not cussing you on purpose. And I couldn't get her to understand it. So finally I thought, okay, I said, so when she can't find her jacket, when she's ready to go out, does she say, where in the hell is my damn jacket? And she said, the grandmother said, no. I said, if she's upset with you because you asked her to do the dishes, does she say, I don't want to do the damn dishes. She said, no. I said, does she just kind of say those words when there's no reason for her to say them? And she said, yes. I said, that's the difference between cussing at you and just cursing as a tick. And she finally got it. And so sometimes those things are difficult, for people to understand. And it takes time in the clinic. It takes, trying to get people to understand. The other part of education that we do is we try to educate our medical students, our residents, including our pediatric residents. We have developed a core curriculum set of lectures that we do over a series of 8 to 10 weeks every year as part of their education series, where we cover diagnosis, pathophysiology, comorbidities, and management of Tourette syndrome. We also provide training and education to our community PCPs, as well as the pediatric residents and medical students that rotate through our clinics. We do education with the schools, a lot of times using the TAA information and also providing them with the website information so they can access the videos and everything from there. And we do educate through community outreach with community presentations and outreach events. Next slide. So this is some of our community outreach. Last year, we had a booth at what we call our Pumpkin Run, which this was in Tupelo, but we have it in both Memphis and Tupelo. And we raise money for our hospital. But I had a booth and I had a lot of TAA materials that were sent to me, again, free of charge. We had many visitors. This is one of our sweet young visitors. And in the picture with me is Jessica Glover. She's our clinic manager in Tupelo, and Monica McCarley, who's a fabulous nurse practitioner that I've worked with for years. And she gave me permission to tell that she has Tourette syndrome. So she is an excellent advocate for our patients. And she's great to work with the patients because she can talk to them from a personal viewpoint. So one idea I had after going to the retreat was we have this wonderful facility that was donated by Ryan Seacrest Foundation called the Seacrest Studio in our hospital. And the kids they can put on shows, they do game shows, they do all kinds of entertainment, through there. It can be sent throughout the hospital. So we're going to have a tick night out with a dance party at the Seacrest Studio, and I'm going to invite Katrina to come and be the DJ for that. But we're going to do it sometime in 2026, and I think it'll be a great event for the kids. Next slide. Research, I'll just touch on briefly. We do have some basic science research going on. We also have some research that's being conducted by our affiliation with Rhodes College here in Memphis, which is a liberal arts college that has a neuroscience undergrad, and those neuroscience undergrads are getting to learn firsthand about Tourette syndrome and doing some basic research with us. And we also look for opportunities to partner with TAA in the future for projects to advance our understanding and treatment options for our patients. Last slide. Next slide. And so come visit Memphis and go to Beale Street. That's all.
Thank you very much, Robin. I really appreciate it. That was great. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to pass back to Katrina for a moment. She's going to introduce our last speaker, Dr. Ted Wright.
And again, just to summarize the great words of our directors that were profiled today, oftentimes healthcare law is frustrating, it's difficult, it's complex. And so sometimes the asks appear complex, appear difficult, appear challenging. And so we asked some of our greatest clinical providers here today to make these asks come to life for you. So you can see the way in which what you're doing in DC affects the lives of our patients and affects the services of our COEs. And so to speak on their personal experience and their journey with TS and the way that these decisions that are happening in DC impact their family, I want to introduce Dr. Ted Wright. So Dr. Ted Wright has a PhD in human genetics from Johns Hopkins, and he has over 20 years of working collaboratively with the US government in the biomedical field. Most importantly, he's actually one of our dads of one of our Tourette ambassadors. And so he comes to us today as a father. He comes to us today as somebody that really knows how to take complex medical issues and bring it home for our government leaders and our community with these asks. So Ted, take it away.
Thanks, Katrina. Next slide. So again, I think every patient has a unique experience, and ours started off here uniquely 1 pound, 1 ounce premature baby. And I think this, if anybody's seen the bulb to clear out a nasal passage, that's his teddy bear in this picture. But what does this mean? Myself and my wife have medical degrees, PhDs in human genetics, as I said, in medical research careers. We saw many specialists right out at Children's Hospital. We were very invested in his health right away. We were always observing and looking, and we have high engagement with all physicians. So that's unique by itself. And there was a lot of medical appointments. Next slide. But really what it comes down to is the diagnosis. So in 2018, we noticed that there was some potential tics. We went at DC Children's National, met neurology. We were told to observe and video. And then COVID happened and pandemic happened. And so we leveraged telehealth, right? And so we heard that a common message from our colleagues here on the phone is telehealth helped us get to a diagnosis during the pandemic. And whether you're in a rural or city environment, telehealth is an option to help treat patients and connect with patients in a better way. So we were finally given our diagnosis of Tourette. And then we got the follow-up a few years or every year now. But really, we were left on our own still, didn't really know what was going on until we started being introduced to the TAA. So there's resources TAA. As we said, there's education materials that are sent out. TAA is very important and vital for this community because they, with these grants and everything they get from the CDC and that collaboration of education, it really does support everything from a patient and what it means to a patient as well as the doctors here. It was a limited journey for us because we were so engaged. Next slide. And then just a couple challenges just to make sure people are aware, right? Tic types. Think about yourself on an airplane when you're traveling and you hear someone coughing behind you. We've had instances recently. We were lucky to go to Spain and people were kind of crowding away from my son, right? It's a coughing tic. And so people think he's sick. He's a kid. They think he's sick, right? They think, disgusting. You hear these things. And that's how it feels, right? He's not sick. That's a tic. But it does impact him because he hears people say, disgusting, right? And things like that. And so you got to think of the mental perspective and why there's such a high degree of suicide, because it is impactful to these kids and then to the adults. And then as a family, we struggle. Very loud tics. We struggle in small areas. We rented a tiny home, kind of a mistake for a tic in that moment, right? And but we laughed about it and we got together. So you can't always have conversations around it as well, just because it interrupts. But you learn to live with it. You learn to be a family. Next slide. And then at the end of the day, the TA also empowers. And so what I really want to say is we homeschool. It is a great environment for him to learn. There's a lot of comorbidities, as I said on was on a previous slide. And so when there's OCD, ADHD, everybody treats their kid as they need to. And we're lucky enough to homeschool with a lot of resources in Maryland where we live. And we have a lot of engagement with DC as we go in and out. And we have a lot of online courses for him. And then, but it can be a lonely journey. And so that's where TA comes in. They also have programs like Youth Ambassador, which has taught him how to be his own advocate. And really, when someone comes in and asks him about what's going on, he immediately turns around and educates them, which completely removes all the let's make fun of the kid with a tic, right? Because all of a sudden they don't have anywhere to go except, okay. And then what do? They talk to him like he's a regular kid because he just wants to play. TICCON, as you heard before, and then Transformation Teal. So there's a lot of initiatives TA support, really support the clinicians, really support the patients here. And it really, the whole community could really use that support and continued support from Congress. So I think that might be the last slide, or one more slide, Jay. So I just want to thank you. And again, this is a picture up in Maine. I'm from New England originally. We travel a lot, and our kids love to be outdoors and physical activity, and that is what is needed. And this is my son again in Maine this last year. So really thank you for your time and continued support.
Thank you, Ted. thanks again for joining us today. So I know we're at time, but I think many of you have been hearing kind of a general theme with all of our speakers here today on how we can all kind of tie this into what can be done. How can lawmakers, especially those in Congress, what can they do to continue supporting our community? The congressman mentioned it at the top of the hour. $2.5 million for, in annual funding for the CDC's research and education program on Tourette syndrome. It is a strongly supported bipartisan program. And yes, obviously, we do have a government shutdown. It will end eventually. But when it does, and they continue working on next year's budget, in addition to the CDC program, just sustain funding for neurological and mental health programs at NIH. We were very, very happy to see that both the House and the Senate in their draft bills for next year actually proposed keeping this funding. Telehealth is obviously critical. A long-term extension would be great. And we hope that Congress can come to an agreement to do that and not do this patchwork every 6 or 8 months. And then lastly is passage of the Safe Step Act, which is would require group health plans to establish a timely process for patients and physicians to request an exemption to step therapy protocols. I know Dr. Jack mentioned it earlier during her presentation. It is a strongly bipartisan supported bill. It is led in the House by Congressman Rick Allen of Georgia, Rick Allen and Lucy McBath, both from Georgia, one Republican, one Democrat. Congressman Miller Meeks, Republican from Iowa. Congressman Ruiz, Democrat from California, and Congressman Onder, who is new to Congress, fairly new to Congress, and he's from Missouri. And then on the Senate side, it's Senators Lisa Murkowski of Alaska as Republican, and then Democrat Maggie Hassan of New Hampshire. And so with that, like I said, we're at time. I think we can pause for maybe one or two questions from our attendees. Just again, want to really thank our special guests here today, especially Congressman Steve Cohen of Tennessee. Really appreciate everyone here who's taken time from their busy schedules to be with us. And of course, we're always grateful for the ongoing support. And as we continue to work, and was a couple of mentions of our Washington, D.C. event, which is coming up first week of March. We are really, really excited to continue working with all of you, and cannot thank you enough. I think with that, we're gonna end for today, and please continue doing all that you do for this community, and we hope to see you again soon. And thanks again to all of our speakers.